Good day, code fans. This is Bill Stannard from Yes Online Learning at the St. Louis Science Center with another of our online learning sessions, this one titled PocketCode, Lesson Number 1. So let's get going. I'm going to open up our PocketCode, which you learned in our last video, how to download and connect to. And the first thing you're going to see when you open up PocketCode is to either continue with a project, a new project, or project on device. Well, we're going to start a new project, so I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to give it a name. Now, the first thing to remember, because you're going to be uploading this to the cloud, is you want to start the name of your project with your initials. And in my case, my initials are BS for Bill Stannard. And then I put in an underscore, which makes it a little bit easier to read. And I'm going to call it Falling Penguins. And once I have that, I need to choose what the orientation, in other words, which way you want to be holding your phone when you run the project. So I'm going to leave it the way it's set up, which is called the portrait orientation. The other one, when it's on its side, is called landscape. So I'm going to click OK, and there we go. And the very first thing I need to put in a project is some sort of background. So I'm going to click on background up at the top, and it asks me whether I want to write some scripts or put a real background in there or add a sound. I'm going to put in a real background, so I'm going to click on background. And to add a background, and in fact, in PocketCode, to add anything, you always hit the plus in the lower left-hand part of the screen. So I hit plus, and I'm going to go to my media library. And I'm going to pick, since we're going to have penguins falling out of the sky, I'm going to pick a scene that has some snow on the ground. So that's going to be in the upper corner, up in the top of that group, and it's called Snowy Landscape. So I am now going to see what that snowy landscape looks like. And I'm going to do that by coming all the way down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and clicking on the Go button. And now we see what our landscape looks like. So we're going to be keeping track of how many penguins you can catch as they come falling down from the sky. And we're going to do that with a variable. And a variable is just a container that keeps track of numbers. In this case, it's going to be our score. So let's go ahead and add a score to this screen. So I'm going to hit the back button in the lower right-hand corner, and the back button again. And I'm going to add some scripts. So I'm going to come back one step and click on scripts. And I'm going to add a variable. And the variables are kind of hidden away. They're in data. I look at all of these possible places to hide my scripts, and you have events and controls and motion and sound, looks, pen, and data. I think of them as being drawers in a kitchen. And the tools I'm looking for, the knives, forks, and spoons, are, in this case, in the data drawer. So I'm going to click on data, and it opens up. And I want to show this variable, this information, on my screen. So I'm going to click on Show Variable. And there it is. And when the scene starts, it automatically puts that in there. When the scene starts, we're going to show the variable. Now, I want to call my variable score. So I'm going to click on the word new under show variable. And I'm going to click my back button. And I'm going to show the variable, and I'm going to call it new. And when I click on that, it gives me the name new, which I'm going to change to score. So I'm now going to type SCORE and click OK. So the variable's name is score, and I want to show it on the screen at a certain position, X, Y position on the screen. So I'm going to tap on the 100 at X, and I'm going to change that to minus 300. And how do I know that number? Well, I've played around with it a little bit, and I have an idea of where I want it to show up. I'm now going to click on OK, and I want it to show up at 500, the Y coordinate. So I'm going to click on the 200 and change that to 500. OK, and I want it to be that same size and that same color. So I'm now going to click on the Go button down at the bottom, and you now see a 0 floating up in the sky, and that's where we're going to keep score. So now that I have a background, let's go ahead and add a penguin. So I click back. I'm now going to go up to the word background and click back there and back there again. And I'm now in my program called Falling Penguins, and I'm going to add a penguin. So I'm going to hit plus down at the bottom. I'm going to go to the media library. I'm going to go into the Pocket family, and I'm going to scroll down until I get to a penguin, and I'm going to click on that little guy right there. And I'm very happy with the name they gave him, which is Penguin. So I'm going to click OK. And the first thing I want to do is add a script for this penguin. So I'm going to click on the penguin, and I'm going to click on scripts. And the first script I'm going to add is going to be when the scene starts. So I'm going to go up to the event drawer, open that drawer, and click on when the scene starts. Now, the first thing I want to do is take a look at my penguin and see how I think it fits into the scheme of things. So I'm going to click on the Go button, and there's my penguin, looking very happy in the middle of the screen. The only problem is that penguin's kind of big for the game I'm going to build. So I'm going to go back by hitting the back button down at the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to add a piece of code that is going to make the penguin smaller. So I'm going to hit the plus button for the piece of code. I'm going to go to the looks drawer, because that's where I would make the penguin smaller. And I'm going to click on the set size, and I'm going to change it from 60% to 30%. And now I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to click on Go. And that's about the right size. So I would like to see my penguins about that size as they come falling down from the sky. So I'm now going to click Go Back, and go back again. And I'm going to add some more code. The code that I want to add at this point is going to be to have my penguins start off somewhere at the top, not all the way at the top, but about halfway up to the top, and come floating down out of the sky. And I want that to happen throughout the game. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is find a forever loop. And after a while, we're going to start referring to that forever loop as being the game loop. So I'm going to click on plus and go to control, because I know that's where it is, and I'm going to click on forever. And you see the forever loop, right? I'm going to move that forever loop below the set size to 30%, and I am, as soon as I move it, going to notice that I now have forever and end of loop. So I'm going to be able to put things in between those two. I'm going to put them in between forever and end of loop. And the first thing I'm going to put in there is to place the penguin up on the screen. So that's going to be plus, and that's going to be a motion. And the very first motion code is place. So I'm going to click on place. And I'm now going to click on where do I want to place the penguin. I'm going to drag the place in between the forever and the end of loop and touch on the 100. And I am going to edit the formula, and I want to place the penguin at a random spot on the screen. So I know that random lives in functions. You'll notice that you have drawers in this formula editor. We have compute and properties and functions and logic and sensors and data. I'm going to go to functions, and I'm going to grab random value, which is right in the middle. And the random value I want to be somewhere from all the way on the left-hand side of the screen to all the way on the right-hand side of the screen. And I know by experimentation that that's from minus 340 to plus 340. And now I'm going to click OK. So it's going to place the penguin somewhere randomly from all the way to the left to all the way to the right. And where do I want it to show up on the screen? Well, I've experimented with that before, and I know I want it to show up at 250 on the y-axis, which is somewhere around 3/4 of the way up the screen. So I'm going to click OK there. So it's going to show up at that point. Let's take a look at that and see what it looks like. So I'm going to press go. So it's kind of running back and forth, but that's kind of the right height. So I'm going to click on back and back again, and I'm going to add another piece of code where I'm going to have the penguin drift down or glide down from where it starts down to the bottom of the screen. And to do that, I'm going to need another piece of code. So I click on plus, and I click on motion. And in this case, I'm going to have to scroll down, and I'm going to pick the glide piece of code. So I'm going to click on glide. I'm going to move that down underneath the place at X, and I'm going to have it take 3 seconds to glide down. So I'm going to click on 1 and replace it with a 3 and click OK. And where I want it to glide down to is the same X position that it's in now. In other words, wherever the random number puts it, I want it to stay in that position from right to left, but I want it to end up all the way down at the bottom, which is going to be about minus 620. So if I go to Y, and I'm going to edit the formula, I'm going to put in minus 620 and click OK. But I want it to start or end up down at the same X position it's in. So I'm going to click on the 100 and I'm going to edit the formula. And now I need to find out what X position it's in right now, and that's going to be under the Properties drawer. So I'm going to click on Properties, and I want it to be in the same X position from right to left, and click OK. So let's see if that works. I'm now going to click on the Go button and see if we get what we want. And there we go. There goes a penguin. And there goes another penguin. And another penguin. So that seems to be working pretty well at this point. So now we're going to have to add something to catch the penguin. So I'm going to hit back. And I'm going to hit back again. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop. And you guys can kind of freeze the screen there if you want to get the code exactly the way I have it. So we'll go to the second video after you've got the code set up this way. So, good day, code fans. This is Bill Stannard again from Yes Online Learning at the St. Louis Science Center with another of our online learning sessions, and this one is titled PocketCode Lesson Number 1, and we'll have the second part of this lesson just coming up.